on all the front covers. It's in all the papers. It's on all the TVs. But we're going to have to talk about the Gregg Wallace situation.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're unpacking the ongoing Gregg Wallace scandal as it continues to develop.
These are claims from 13 women that span across 2 decades of different shows that he's done.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Rising to fame as a vegetable salesman come presenter on Radio 4 originally, Gregg Wallace got his TV start on the very first taping of Saturday Kitchen in 2002.
Let me get this right. So the malt flour obviously gives it its flavour. The wheat flour, that balances the proteins, and then the starch, that gives it like the gooey texture. Is that right?
He didn't last long there, but he eventually moved on to presenting cooking programs specifically about vegetables, as well as finance. Getting his start in the working world by operating a vegetable stand, he was the perfect expert for this. But he didn't really become a household name until 2005, when he joined Aussie chef John Turode judging MasterChef. MasterChef remains one of the most popular cooking competitions in the world, with almost every country having its own version.
What is that?
So that's malt extract.
I've heard of that. I don't actually know what it is.
This will intensify your flavour.
Oh, I gotcha.
Wallace's career took off, and he's become a media stalwart in Britain, recognizable to everybody in the country and frequently appearing on massive shows including Who Do You Think You Are, Strictly, and The Chase's various specials, as well as hosting the long-running series Inside the Factory, a factual documentary about production lines.
Alongside the malt extract, this will add that all-important sticky texture to my loaves. But, oh, that's lovely. Can I have some of that for my ice cream?
But things started to change for Wallace in early 2024, when he was embroiled in an unusual controversy about his weekend routine.
I want to get even fitter and even stronger. I want to get down to 11.5 stone.
After getting in shape in recent years, he said that he spends hours in the gym, getting up at 5 AM and persuading the staff to open the doors for him half an hour early.
We see no reason why I can't keep getting fitter and stronger all the way into my 70s. If I can have this impact now on people at 57, imagine the impact I can have at 75.
He does all that and would then head to his local harvester for a fry-up at 10:30. Going to bed at 8 each evening after saving enough time to play Total War for a few hours every Saturday. That was small compared to the stories that began breaking in November, however.
I think that my reflection on all of this is, number one, I don't think it merits being the lead story on the news.
On the 26th, Gregg Wallace was hit with a letter from BBC News asking about some allegations that had been made against him.
And I just think on Sunday night, the BBC put the Gregg Wallace story first on the news, and I just think that that's ridiculous. Let's get things in proportion.
This came over a year after Wallace had left his presenting gig on Inside the Factory, which happened the previous July after he was accused of being rude to female members of staff on the show while filming. On the 28th, it was announced that he was going to step down from presenting MasterChef and its various versions while an investigation was carried out. And since then, the allegations have flooded in.
I don't think you should take a programme off because Gregg Wallace is in it, because we all know now enough about Gregg Wallace to last us a lifetime.
While there are many reports from unnamed people who worked on various shows, primarily MasterChef, plenty of celebrities have also talked about their experiences working with Wallace on Celebrity MasterChef specifically.
I've been doing MasterChef for 20 years. Amateur, celebrity and professional MasterChef.
One of the first to talk was veteran journalist Kirsty Walk, who did an interview with BBC News where she discussed the inappropriate language Wallace used during the production.
He was there with his wife, or I think she might have been his girlfriend. She left the room and he made a comment about what they did in the bedroom.
Locations. Kirsty Alsop also talked about her experiences with Wallace, posting on social media to hit back at something Wallace had said on his Instagram, which we'll get to later. According to Alsop, Wallace was boasting to her about sexual acts he and his partner got up to.
I just thought, God, I wonder if she knows that he says those things when she leaves the room. She was quite a lot younger than him, and it was a sort of comment he seemed to be showing off.
Sir Rod Stewart also weighed in, saying that his wife, Penny Lancaster, was subject to unpleasant jokes from Wallace, as did Charlotte Crosby in Stewart's comments online. It's now understood that currently 13 people have made allegations against Wallace dating between 2005 and 2022, all of them primarily regarding blue and lewd comments he would make during filming.
One woman says he touched her bottom at an event, and another says he pressed his crotch against her while filming on a different show.
He'd allegedly talked often about how he was having frequent sex and what the sex was like, as well as being accused in at least one case of taking his clothes off during a workday. In one instance, a woman also claimed that he was, quote, fascinated by her being a lesbian, asking her about the logistics of how her relationships with other women worked. However, he's also been accused of other things, like inappropriately touching or miming sexual act with female members of the production crew on his shows, with dozens now speaking out about their experiences.
But these allegations have gone up a notch and become less about inappropriate banter and now allegations of inappropriate touching or groping.
As more continues to come out, the production company behind MasterChef, Banerjee, has appointed lawyers to conduct a formal investigation into the historical misconduct. Wallace hasn't taken all this lying down though. On the 1st of December, he posted an Instagram video about the allegations, denying them and saying that the complaints were a tiny percentage of all the people he'd worked with over his long career.
Now, in the newspaper, I can see the complaints coming from a handful of middle-class women of a certain age just from Celebrity MasterChef.
However, his Instagram video didn't exactly help his case. In it, he said that the allegations against him were being made by, quote, middle-class women of a certain age, unquote, apparently suggesting that middle-class women were conspiring against him or that women can't handle risque jokes and double entendre.
There may be many other people, not in that 13, but the other thousands, may also have felt a bit awkward and uncomfortable, but didn't feel they were in a position to say.
Alsop was waiting to hit back at this, pointing out on her own social media accounts that middle-class women and industry veterans like herself and Kirsty Walk are precisely the kind of people who should be calling out behavior like this, because they're the ones who were able to do so.
But having worked with him, I can say, Charlene, he is extremely aggressive. I mean, I don't even have to allege that. He's extremely aggressive.
On social media, meanwhile, while Wallace has thanked his fans for supporting him, many have continued to call him out and compared his catastrophic downfall to an Alan Partridge episode. The story has still continued to grow, with the government bafflingly deciding to get involved.
I do find it strange that the government has waded into Gregg Wallace and made him kind of the figurehead of all of this.
Perhaps it was because the BBC is facing yet another scandal involving one of its top stars. But Downing Street waded in to condemn Gregg Wallace's Instagram video, with Lisa Nandid talking to the BBC about the incidents.
I want to apologise for any offence that I caused with my post yesterday and any upset I may have caused to a lot of people.
The following day, Wallace's PR team must have gotten involved because he released another video apologising for any offence he caused, which isn't really the same thing as apologising for the things he actually did. He's since deleted that one too, though.
I've been under a huge amount of stress, a lot of emotion. I felt very alone, under siege yesterday when I posted it.
Perhaps the strangest story came during an LBC interview with Nick Ferrari, where a London cabbie called in to say that he'd also had a dodgy run-in with Gregg Wallace.
We got in the taxi and we're going on the journey, and within about a minute or so, he asked the driver, "Can I ask you a question?"
As a passenger, the cab driver, identified as John, said that Wallace asked him whether he was married and then probed him for details about his sex life. John told him off and, according to him, nearly threw him out the car.
And I said to him, this is not the way to behave. Is this it? You know, this is long before all this came out.
But what's actually going on with all this? With the scandal spiraling out of control, some pundits have pointed out that the BBC may be overcorrecting in the wake of some of its other major scandals.
Why were these women ignored? They made complaints years ago, over and over. There are historical complaints about his alleged behavior. And yet, right now, we're just talking about Gregg Wallace, not how the system let these women down.
The corporation still hasn't recovered from the revelations about Hugh Edwards, particularly that it was still paying him hundreds of thousands of pounds between his ultimate arrest for possession of indecent images in November 2023 and his resignation from the Beeb the following April. Earlier in 2024, the BBC has also come under fire for its handling of Jermaine Genius's sexting scandal.
Currently, as it stands, I'm going to have to let the lawyers deal with it. You know, there's two sides to every story.
Where Genius was sacked from The One Show with minimal warning while he was presenting a live radio show for another outlet. He was then forced to speak on the radio about how he wasn't going to comment about the situation as it unfolded.
Since apologised for that and said he wasn't in a good headspace, but he's taken some time out while the investigation is underway.
Can I say...
The BBC has also now pulled future episodes of MasterChef from broadcast, including this year's Christmas specials, while old repeats of Inside the Factory, which he left nearly 18 months ago, have also been pulled from broadcast.
You know, there's a lot of people saying, oh, well, you know, you can't say anything these days. Well, you actually can. You can say things, but if they're not appropriate, you shouldn't.
He's been dropped by charities that he was previously a prominent spokesperson for, including Ambitious About Autism. It's clear that at this point, Wallace certainly won't be returning to MasterChef and will need to be replaced with someone else if the show's to continue, which surely it will, owing to its massive popularity.
Ulrika Johnson was on the show in 2017. She said there was a female contestant who he really upset, causing another contestant to storm off, and then complaints were made.
Right.
But we anticipate that Wallace's storied media career will come to an end unless he pivots to alternate platforms, like Russell Brand's done recently with Baptism and Amulets.
Tell you what his lawyer has said. It is entirely false that he, Greg, engages in behaviour of a sexually harassing nature. That's what the lawyer said.
But people are still watching the situation unfold and wondering whether the BBC or Wallace himself have the worst PR machine working behind them, since nobody's coming out of this smelling like roses.
Did you witness the same stuff?
Yes, I agree with everything Kirsty says. Those jokes weren't actually directed at me, but the jokes were always smutty.
Considering the allegations against Wallace had already been investigated years ago and apparently deemed to be unfounded, it definitely makes the production look like it chose protecting him over doing what was best for the people on the team. But is the BBC overcorrecting when most of the allegations against Wallace aren't criminal, even if they are true? And should they have been reported at all until the investigation was complete? But on the flip side, would Banerjee investigate it at all if the public outcry wasn't so huge?
It would be inappropriate for us to comment on anything that could form part of Banerjee's ongoing investigation.
It's certainly a difficult conversation, and Wallace's attempts to crisis manage it absolutely haven't helped. Let us know in the comments what you think about Gregg Wallace and who should replace him on MasterChef.
It was as if Greg is some sort of dinosaur who just can't read the room and seemed to be allowed to carry on in this way.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.